on characters, and the timing that they choose for that show gives the personality of the entire show. And so so there's a lot of easing on Samurai Jack, for example. There's a lot of really close frames and then really big jumps and then a little easing at the end. Roger Rabbit seems like it's all on ones, kind of a little bit of easing maybe, but the timing on that. But some of the timing on some of these shows is really dramatic about how they ease it. And that's like everything that the characters do, everything that the camera does, they always keep a certain easing theme or a sense of timing for the whole show. That way the animators are all like doing things with the same sense of timing. It's very, very advanced sensibility to do that. But I just thought I'd point that out because I happen to have this graph here and I thought it was cool, based on each show. All right.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Is that on Moodle?
I can't remember, but I'll give it to you as a handout soon.
I would love that.
All right. Now, there are a lot of ways of thinking about character. Our concern is going to be, so there's two things that we're going to be doing over the coming weeks. We're going to be learning more about basic animation and animating, and we're going to be doing character design for our first project, right? And the character design for our first project is going to be all about the whole character design process. And so I'm really going to reinforce, and I know a lot of you people know a lot of this already, but a lot of people don't too. So we're going to do it like from scratch. But, I want you guys to be able to be better character drawers, better drawers. So we're going to talk a lot about drawing, but we're also going to talk a lot about designing a good character, specifically for 2D animation, but also, for 3D and video games and everything else. But the character design process, like how do you brainstorm up new characters? How do you draw them when you come up with them? So we're going to do, if you've taken my 3D class, we did a very little bit of character design before we sculpted our 3D characters, and we talked a little bit about the silhouette method and some other methods of brainstorming up original type characters. We'll do that in here, but we're going to be focused mostly on character sheets and the character design process, and also how to deal with the character that we how to move characters in space in a 2D kind of way. So we're going to practice some simplified characters. We're going to be doing a lot of gesture type drawings. So a lot of people don't realize, sorry, I just need to find this for a second. A lot of people think that these animations just come out like nice, like all the drawing is really nice from the very beginning. Most good animation is a total mess from the very beginning. It's all about the layers that you put on it. A lot of it is very gestural, very loose. Let me show you some. So, like, just first thing I can find, let's just look at this. So a lot of, doing the comparison between how the, see how kind of rough that is? Like, these kind of like loose gestural type drawing style is the essence of 2D animation. Like learning how to be loose and gestural with your drawings. I mean, those still look like liquor bottles or whatever, but they're identifiable as such. But when you first lay down the first layer, you're not caring about that, right? You're just trying to get the gesture. Notice how scratchy, how imperfect this is. This is actually a little tighter than I would even expect from character-based work. But notice how they've demarcated so in this show, the edge lighting is very important. And so they actually animate the edge lighting as as part of their rough, right? A lot of gestural characters look something like this, like really loose, right? Your character can be really, really loose and sketchy, right? It's not like it has to be perfect from the very beginning. Why do you think the first layer of an animated rough would be loose and sketchy? What's the reason to keep it loose? Yeah.
So you know what poses you want to do?
Yeah, so you can establish the poses and the timing, even the squash and stretch and all that from frame to frame, but you're not getting bogged down in what color is the eye, or is there no shape exactly like that, or how is my line quality. More you're thinking about getting that story done and making sure your characters feel right over time. What's another reason that you might keep it loose?
Just to understand what works and what doesn't.
Yes?
If you have quick, good ideas, you want to get them on there. Forget.
That's right. Animators, 2D animators are thinking in time really fast. You're trying to get that action out of your brain and onto the paper or into the computer fast, get the idea out, and then refine it over time. So the way animation layers often go is you've got the bottom one, the first one is your rough, right? And then maybe you have a ink layer, in following sort of your comic book thing, it would be, that might be your pencils, and then this would be your inks, or your, clean lines. This is also in animation called a tie down, where you tie down the design. But you would do the whole scene gestural, rough gesture first, a whole line of it. Then you go back, and on the top of that, you make another layer, and you tie down that action. Then you'd have a clean line layer, and then you'd have things like color fills, and then a shading pass, and then all that post-production stuff, lighting and compositing and stuff like that. But everything starts out with the rough animation first, right? Rough, loose, gesture. And figuring out your gestural style, well, let's just watch the comparison between the finished and the... So after you establish the idea, you can always go back on more and more layers and do the lighting and the color and the textural pass and the compositing and all that stuff, right? And they don't just go from that to that. They've skipped like 15 layers of work here, but it definitely starts out looking more rough. Right? Getting those ideas out. Notice how they're using different colors. These are the edge lighting. This show, more than just about any other show for some reason, this show is really concerned about that edge lighting. And so the quality of light in this show is so important. So they have a lot of rules around how they're handling interior shadows, how they're handling edge lights. And so all that is part of the animation rough. And they're roughing out those ideas. And then when it's done, you can see. So it's important for animators to be able to tell what the heck they're doing. So it's very common to use blue, red, green, black for different things, right? Getting those shots down. And that's basically our goal. Oh, that guy is so cute. So this is going to be one of the first. So this is what I call the squirrel or the bean or the flour sack, right? Characters like this. So next class we're going to be animating a character, And it's going to be quite a bit like the squirrel or the bean. And what that is, that's a classic cartoon character shape, where the reason they call it the bean is because it's sort of shaped like that. From this shape, you can get so much character work done, right? Because that's really just that's really the body, it's the belly and the chest. And if you know where that's going, you know where everything's going. So that's a really good thing. And when people do the flour sack tests, which I'll show you in a minute, which we'll practice, those flour sacks are, they're these guys, right? And these things can be like ears, and you can have a little thing down the side. But what that really is the gesture drawing. It's still the chest and the belly and the legs, right? And the arm, So if you can move those masses around, you can move any character around, right? Especially cartoon characters. So nice and simple. So that's why this shape is very natural to animators to work with that shape. Okay. So let's look at a few more roughs for a second, if you don't mind. So using, so these are tie-down passes, but they're still very rough. So when you've got a lot going on, you're trying to get this character to move around, understanding that you're using different colored inks to tell you what's going on is really important. These are a little beyond the rough stage. These are definitely tying down the lines. But you can see things aren't really drawn super careful yet, right? But they are tying these down into solid form characters. Before these guys looked like this, they looked like this, right? This is the tie-down pass. So it's not very good for what I'm trying to show you. Let's find some roughs. So when you're practicing at home, it's almost more important to practice the rough action than clean lines, and thinking that it needs to be clean all the time. Let's see if we can find a nice primitive one here. Now, this is the kind of exercises we're going to be doing in the next couple weeks, is we're going to be timing out certain physical moments that characters do. But at the same time, so that's the kind of animation practice we're going to be doing. This is basically like our ball practice, right? We're going to be doing walk cycles. We're going to be lifting heavy weights, jumping over fences, stuff like that. Getting used to moving a character around on screen, but not overly complicated characters, right? Maybe a little more nuanced than this, but pretty primitive. This is called a standing wave. That's very important. We're going to do that too. That way we can do fire and smoke and all that stuff. But you'll notice, see how they're squashing and stretching? They're doing all the stuff they need to do here, but it's really, really rough. So figuring out, and this, all these numbers on the side, we'll talk about that, but that's basically easing and timing. Basically what we kind of did just now today. But we're going to do this a little more. So I don't want you to be afraid and feel like your character has to be drawn. For the first couple of weeks, your character doesn't have to be more drawn any more than that, really, right? And I think most people can do that in here. when you're in doubt about a character, you think about the essence of the character, right? When you're designing a character, you want to think in fact, when you're drawing anything at all, you're thinking, what is this made of? You know, it's a circle, it's a rectangle, it's an oval, right? It's a elongated rectangle. So if you understand that almost everything is a circle, rectangle, square, triangle, and that you can use those shapes to simplify your character, then that's really valuable to understand. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be learning animation with simplified characters and moving simple characters around and practicing drawing rough characters. And that has to do with understanding some things about characters, which I'm going to pass this up. But we also simultaneously are going to be thinking about what project we want to do with the character. And we're probably going to want, like you're definitely going to have an advanced project in here at the end of the quarter, which is where you're going to do a character sheet and design a character and then animate a character through a couple of scenes. And that is going to look more like a proper character sheet. So we need to talk about let me show you. And I know these first couple days are hard for people who have already done this, but I showed the Legend of Korra last time as a character sheet. But a character sheet typically has a turnaround, a 3/4 view, a front view, and a side view. And then it has some acting, if you're going to do a lot of facial acting. So this will be a character sheet. We'll be trying to make this quarter at least one good character with one good character sheet. And then we're going to rough out an animation and see if we can clean it up and make our character do what we want it to, right? But it's going to take a little stages. And as we go through the stages, I want you to be aware of the stages of the character design process, right? Are you guys okay? You with me okay? Sorry, I'm just grabbing things that are useful real fast. Hopefully. So, one good way to get to a character. It's always about stages of development. This can actually be the animation layers, right? Your whole scene can just be this, right? Which is kind of like a stick figure with a big round head and big ears. And you rough that whole scene out. Then you go back on another layer and you do it a little bit tighter, kind of tying it down a little more. And then you've got the flowing hair, facial expressions. Then you do the really solid tie down or the ink layer with cleaner lines, more permanent feel. And then you do the color and shading paths, right? So everything takes place in those stages of development. But most of the animation practice we're going to do lives right in this territory, right? We're just going to make sure we can move the character around a little bit. Cool. Thanks for your patience. Character design process. You've got the research and brainstorming, right? Research and brainstorm. That's where you're going to do a little bit. If you want a fish creature, maybe you would look around at other fish creatures, or you would start to look at characters that have already been designed to maybe try and get some ideas. how can I make an original character, but how can it also feel like it belongs? Does anybody have a character that they already have in mind that they want to animate here? Can you tell me what it is? You've already got a character.
got your sheet.
So he's already got a character sheet. Can you explain to us Cosmo the Fox?
Yeah.
The fox?
Yeah.
Really nice fox too. Yeah, so he's already done a character sheet, which is cool. Yes, what's yours?
I have a salamander.
Great.
That's, and the frog lives and he has a giant metal pipe.
Oh, good, and it's nice and, oh, he's got metal pipe and he's got big gloves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's nice and simple, which is good. So research and brainstorm. Rough. You'd want to do your sketching like shape-based. No, that's later. Sorry. Gestural sketches, right? To get the general idea. And then you'd start to think about what shapes the characters are made of. Or the shape language of that character. So did you consider shape language in your...
Absolutely.
You did. And what's your character mainly made of?
He's mainly made of teardrop shapes and circles.
Cool. So kind of a fun, rounded, fun,
Square.
not really sharp and aggressive. Does anybody have one with shape language that's sort of a little more sharp? What's yours?
I've got a detective character. He's made of like squares and circles.
Squares and stuff. So some sharp edge juxtaposed with some looser circular edges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His chest. Make a little circle with.
How about yours?
I have a character that just has like a lot of like spiky hair and so he folds that and it really short.
Oh yeah, is that a female?
Oh, it's like
Androgynous.
yeah.
I like the tall teenager-ishness of
Yeah.
it and the wild hair. Do they have big gloves or something? Or?
They're wearing a big sweater that's like going.
That goes over their hands. Ah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. How about yours?
I'm gonna do the Patrick character in it for 3D animation. And
Oh.
she's made up of a lot of triangles, and
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna give her clothes this time.
Yeah.
That will also be very sharp.
How about yours?
As well more blockier shapes and
Oh, yeah, big blocky
shapes you can edit it.
Yeah.
And just giving it more squares.
So that would be squares. So a lot of you guys are a little more advanced, and you're already understanding things like shape language. You've already even like that last character that I just looked at is pretty cool. So you know. If you guys are in Photoshop doing Photoshop stuff, figuring out your shape language. Understand, like, it looked like that, that big blocky character was really made of a lot of big, like it was almost all squares, right?
You want to see the full drawing of closer?
No, it's okay. I'm just getting the idea. You know what I mean? I'm trying to convey, like, that is not like your classic squirrely, teardrop shaped, like the one that she had, right? So understanding your, the shape that I was talking about, the squirrel or the bean, is a really good shape to move around. I have a handout for you guys about shape characters, but a lot of cartoon characters are very, they're very loose and cartoony, right? But you've got big, blocky, rough characters. You've got pointy, sharp, dangerous characters. You've got rounded, kind of friendlier, more fun type, characters. And understanding how to use those shapes is not only going to, so what that does, that supports the story a lot, shape language, because it reinforces what kind of personality your character has. So here's a nice square-headed character, right? Like where the primary, notice how we've got round, oval, and square, right? So when you start deciding on a shape style, it ends up starting to bleed into the personality of your character. So after you do like a rough idea, you've done your research, you've looked at a bunch of different ideas, you're starting to craft your own character. If you keep in mind the shape language, it'll start to sort of solidify your character into what its personality really is, right? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it makes sense to those of you who are already talking about shape language, but so that would definitely be a consideration. Like if you're making vampiric, dangerous vampire women or something, they're probably going to have really sharp collars. They're probably going to maybe even have really sharp edges to their dresses, right? They're going to definitely have sharp fangs, right? They might even have a hat that's really sharp, or somehow their hair is really sharp. So they're going to be all triangles. You're trying to convey to the audience that this person is a bad guy, a dangerous character, potentially, they're like a knife. If you touch them, it's going to hurt you, right? And so shape language really is like goofy, oval, friendly characters that can bounce around. That you can convey a lot by how your shape is. So let's see. Thanks for your patience. It's a little hard because some people in here, they know this stuff, right? But let's just take a look for a second. Right? So square type characters, right? Square jaw, square shoulders, squared off hands, big blocky feet. They're really strong oftentimes. Maybe they're solid and friendly, but square can oftentimes mean like really bad and overly strong and dangerous. A lot of your anime bad guys might be, if they're not triangle based, they're probably square based characters. Triangles, exaggerate the length of things, make things pointier, make things more dangerous. I'm sure you guys know anime characters where the spikiness of their hair is conveying something about their personality, right? And then ovals, ovals tend to be, or circular-based characters tend to be friendlier. Rounded edges, they're warm and welcoming. And sometimes with that squirrel shape or the bean shaped character, you can really move those characters around great. When you first start animating, that is just a great shape to think about. Okay, so when you're drawing characters, and I thank you guys for your patience about the beginning stuff, but this really is just the first day of this stuff. Whoa, sorry about that. Are you telling me? I guess that's right. Now, so there's a lot of things happening in this class at the same time, right? Like I said, I want you to understand about the character design process. I want you to become a better drawer. I want you to come up with characters that you really like, right? This animation involves acting and storytelling and storycraft, character design, and as well as the practice of animation itself, right? This is a little bit about the gesture stage. And I think this is a very important stage. Boy, about a lot of people. Hold on. Get smart.
Thank you for letting us have a lot of people.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I love it. I just hope that I have enough of these for everyone. I think I do. And if you're very, very advanced already, then you just gonna have to be patient for a couple days.
I love relearning the same things over and over again.
No, don't be mean. That's making me feel bad.
No, I didn't mean it.
Take it back then.
I mean that because I watched like literally the same like YouTube tutorials because you always learn something every time
I didn't know how to do the, what's it called, cutting in half or the, I've always been straight ahead.
Straight ahead, right?
Yeah.
Post to post.
That's the post, because
So
I wanted to
important.
learn how to do that, so it's gonna help me.
Okay, good.
I
So-
was not meant to be evil. I meant
No,
to
I know. No, I know.
Can I open this?
Yeah. So, honestly, I find this to be super important. We'll talk about this handout in a moment. But that, if you're practicing drawing characters in general, I would do it this way. I would look at these, the masses, and think about how the human body moves. A lot about what we're going to be dealing with is body mechanics. And body mechanics have a lot to do with what are the shoulders doing and what is the pelvis doing and what are the body masses doing. Just like our bouncing ball, when we start bouncing characters around, you've got different weights and masses that need to move in a specific way, but they're all hinged. So the shoulders, when you're dealing with humans, and we'll start with humans even though people are going to go way off into all kinds of other humanoid type characters. Let's see. Brainstorm, gesture. So what we're really talking about is gesture for a second. So that handout is about how to move characters around a little bit. And so I've addressed this in other classes, so a lot of people have seen this already. But, you've got what's called the line of action, right? What the character has done. It's usually a C shape or it's an S shape in animation, right? And if you've got a line of action running through your character, if you've got a gestural moment, you want that moment to feel as energetic and dynamic as possible, right? And so that line of action is going to dictate everything else that your character does. But understanding how to move a character around that gesture, that initial thrust is really important. And the way you do that, just like the handout that I've given you, you've got masses. You've got a mass here, right? And you've got a mass here, and you've got the head or whatever, right? Like, if you know where your gestural line is, your line of action, and you know where some of your important masses are, you can be real simple, but you can already see the character there, right? Now, you always want not only to be aware of what these masses are doing in relation, but you want to be aware of the contrapposto. Meaning, contrapposto is Italian for against something. I forget what it means in Italian. Anyway, it's where if you've got any kind of character, if you're drawing the character, you draw a much more interesting character if your shoulders and your hips are contrary to each other. It makes for more dynamic work, right? And so if you know that contrapposto, you're going to get a little attitude in there, right? You're going to get, you know how you're standing, right? You're going to have a little more physical. It's time to go. Okay. So, today is what? Thursday?
Yep.
My gosh. So what I want you guys to do in your sketchbooks or in Photoshop or whatever tool, digital or non-digital tool, I want you to take that handout and I want you to practice gesture drawing based on that handout and move. See if you can start to lock in a specific character and then see if you can move them around, make them do stuff. Can they lift a heavy package? can they do big steps over a puddle? Can they bend down? And do they still look like the same character? Let's start practicing those things, and we'll take a little bit of look at what you're up to next class, and then we'll go deeper into character and deeper into moving characters on the screen. Next class, is that all right? Thank you. Don't forget, yeah, animate. But you don't have to animate over the weekend. Just draw. Yes.
Are we doing that part?
Yes, lab is open tomorrow from 10 to 1. It'll be 10 to 4 eventually, but right now it's 10 to 1. But she doesn't have a key yet.
Yeah.
Also, do you wanna talk about animation club?
We do want to talk about animation club. Let's talk about that next class.
Okay.
But you've got the bylaws and all that, the constitution.
I was gonna ask you
So
about.
I'll always, yeah, maybe if you don't mind doing the one before. But don't worry about it tomorrow. Actually, I guess you can take the floor one at that end. You can have the door locked already. You can get a key, you can leave and close the door and it's locked.
So what time is that?
That don't have to be. But you really don't have to rush tomorrow.
Okay.
I would say it is.
I'll be here, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't mind if people, especially you guys, like, if the lab evening, as long as the door locks behind you, you can hang around as much as you want. We'll leave and just make sure the door's closed. I see people guarding the equipment and all that.
That color.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Don't forget to log out of your Adobe. No, sadly, Adobe doesn't do that anymore because it's so much data for every student, they stopped doing it. You can save it locally if you just say file save as, but that's why we need a thumb drive. Your sketchbook or in Photoshop or whatever. Yeah. Thank you guys.
I'm gonna be the president of the animation.
Well, we got some stuff going on. We're not quite as far as
I
usual.
believe that we are, because it's so empty in here on Fridays.
That would be like be guaranteed to be.
Oh, you should just make Fridays, yeah, Animation Club Day. That'd be great.
I
Is
don't know if
that?
we're allowed, because if it's technically a good holiday, closed on Fridays. I don't know, we might have to talk with ASB about it.
Oh, I don't know. I think you're allowed.
Yeah, that's true. I think if it's an official club, we have to talk with ASB.
That sucks.
Thank you guys a lot for your patience. We finally got through all the technical issues. What? It's 221 Intro to 2D Animation.
You want gesture drawings, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just practice gesture stuff. Refer to this and just draw some characters. Gesture.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, see ya.
Thanks.
So like, you can't even access.
My dad the other day. I thought that was his hairspray. That's so funny.
Are you recording the podcast?
Yeah.